The Roman Senate often portrayed itself as the steadfast protector of democracy, the cornerstone of the Roman Republic. But was that image genuine or merely a well-crafted illusion? In truth, the Senate's devotion to democratic ideals often depended on whether those ideals served their interests. When they didn't, their loyalty to the Republic conveniently disappeared. Today, we'll delve into how the Senate manipulated democracy to maintain its grip on power and how this self-serving approach ultimately contributed to the collapse of the Roman Republic. The Roman Republic is frequently praised as an ancient model of democracy. Citizens voted, participated in assemblies, and elected leaders. On the surface, the Senate represented the voice of the people. Yet beneath that democratic veneer lay an oligarchic reality. The Senate was dominated by a small elite of aristocratic families who concentrated power in their hands. Their decisions were driven not by the needs of Rome's broader population, but by their own interests. The common people, or plebeians, often found their concerns disregarded by a Senate that used democracy as a tool of convenience. Rome's rapid expansion exposed its systemic issues: land shortages, debt crises, and an ever-widening gap between rich and poor. While the Senate was slow to act, leaders like Julius Caesar, Tiberius Gracchus, and Gaius Gracchus rose to prominence, championing bold reforms that resonated with the people. Their proposals, land redistribution, debt relief, and food programs galvanized public support. But rather than embracing these changes, the Senate panicked. These reformers, beloved by the masses, challenged the entrenched status quo. To the Senate, they were not just political opponents, they were existential threats. Instead of engaging with these leaders, the Senate sought to obstruct them, label them as enemies, and in some cases, eliminate them altogether. The Senate's commitment to democracy dissolved whenever it risked weakening their grip on power. This was not democracy in action. It was self-preservation at its most blatant. Consider the rise of Julius Caesar. A military genius and skilled politician, Caesar gained immense popular support through reforms addressing the needs of ordinary Romans. Land redistribution for veterans, debt relief, and measures to ease economic hardship made him a champion of the people. Yet the Senate branded him a dictator, a tyrant who endangered the Republic. But why? Caesar's rise didn't stem from unchecked ambition alone. It stemmed from widespread dissatisfaction with a Senate that refused to act. What truly frightened the Senate was not Caesar's policies, but his ability to bypass their authority. His immense popularity threatened their privileged position. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon in 49 BCE, it was more than a strategic military move. It was a direct challenge to the Senate's monopoly on power. The Senate's cries of tyranny were less about protecting the Republic and more about protecting themselves. To them, Caesar represented change they could neither control nor tolerate. Their portrayal of him as a despot obscured the reality. Caesar had the backing of the people, while the Senate clung desperately to a crumbling status quo. The Senate's self-interest became most apparent in 44 BCE with Caesar's assassination. Conspirators like Brutus and Cassius claimed they acted to save the Republic from dictatorship, yet their motivations were far from pure. The assassination wasn't about preserving democracy, it was about removing a leader who threatened their power. The aftermath of Caesar's death tells the true story. Instead of restoring stability, Rome descended into chaos. Civil wars erupted, proving that the Senate's actions were not about the greater good. They had no plan to revive the Republic, only to protect their own influence. Caesar's murder was not the heroic act they claimed, but a desperate attempt to maintain control. In the power vacuum that followed, the Senate's influence steadily declined. Rome's descent into civil war gave rise to Augustus, later known as Rome's first emperor. This marked the official end of the Roman Republic. Ironically, the Senate's relentless efforts to safeguard their privileges paved the way for the imperial system that would diminish their authority. Their refusal to adapt, coupled with their rejection of reformers like Caesar, sealed their fate. The Senate's story offers important lessons. Their selective commitment to democracy highlights the dangers of political elites who manipulate democratic ideals for their own gain. The Senate supported democracy only when it served their interests and abandoned it when it didn't. This short-sighted approach not only eroded their legitimacy, but also contributed to the Republic's collapse. The fall of the Roman Senate serves as a cautionary tale. When democracy is treated as a convenience rather than a principle, it becomes fragile and vulnerable to collapse. History reminds us that democracy thrives only when those in power prioritize the people's will over their own preservation. If this journey into Roman history sparked your curiosity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more explorations of the past that shed light on our present and future.